kind of like my goals of us like hopefully bringing patients on and like talking about our own experiences. I think that, I mean, there's a crap ton of anecdotal evidence out there, and eventually we'll have medically and scientifically backed studies to show all of this. But I want to draw so much attention to the relief that people are getting and like their actual like personable experiences, and like putting a face to a name or a face to a story or whatever. Because I remember when I was working in the dispensary, I had a patient come in who her doctor, who wrote her card, who did a recommendation, told her for her IBS to not, or it was either IBS or Crohn's, I can't remember at this point, but something digestive, told her to stay away from edibles. And I'm like, no. That's like completely
right
opposite.
Back to the education piece.
And that's my thing is there's so many, with all the medical states that are popping up, that's going to be the hardest thing is finding a doctor who actually takes the time to understand what they're telling patients and not just doing it to do it.
That's why I got kind of lucky with the doctor that we're working with right now is because she has information, like she may be a patient herself, I'm not sure, but she certainly knows enough about it to be able to briefly give them, a little direction. And then, she doesn't have to do much, but just understand what it is and how it can help and the different methods of ingestion, and
what the differences are.
Yeah. And give them a little bit of direction. Of course, everybody does have to figure it out on their own because it's a plant and there's no, going back to the edibles, and it's easier sometimes to figure out your dose if you're using an edible. But the issue that some patients run across is that is availability. Like Danielle, you said earlier about you had some Maui Wowie, but if you could have that all the time, then you would be able to do, this.
Feel comfortable off of Adderall.
Yeah. And so, patients will run into that experience too. And especially with an ever changing market that we find right now is that sometimes a product that they know is going to work at 25 milligrams, it's not available next time they go into the dispensary.
Yeah, it's a huge frustration for patients. And that's why educating patients as well on knowing what the components were in that particular strain or product or whatever it might be, why that benefited them, but why it doesn't necessarily need to come from, the granddaddy perp. It can also come from, Northern Lights or whatever it would be if they have similar chemical profiles. It all comes down to the chemistry of it and educating patients and patients then being advocates for that information because, it was a lot of work to always put that information consistently out there for patients. But once they started demanding it, that was like, oh yeah, okay. And it's very difficult when you're educated on it and then you go to a dispensary and all you see is the THC and CBD content.
Oh,
and you
it's
don't
frustrating
have any
here.
further information. And then another difficulty with Michigan in particular is consistency in products and consistency in labeling. So unless you have like a really established name brand like Kiva, say, or something like that, if you're just buying an edible and it says it's 50 milligrams and you take one and you're like, this is not 50 milligrams, then you as a patient are thinking that you have a super high tolerance and you go to a different product that actually does have 50 milligrams and you're comatose. You know what I mean? Like, so consistent and getting a consistent amount in the, in each gummy is a difficult process. And so if you're not working with people that are diligent about that, it can be very, very hard.
Yeah, that's for sure.